So here is a quick introduction to Wizard of Wor and play what to do. Wizard of Wor is a maze shooter where you kill as many monsters as you can, get as far into the game as you can, and go for the high score. So we're just going to jump right into the first screen and take a look at the game itself. So you are the yellow player when you're playing a one-player game. You can see you start here in the bottom right. You always start in the bottom right. You come out of the safety zone. You have 10 seconds to decide when to do that, but whenever you want, you come out of it. You can see that there's monsters all over the screen, and you can see that there is the radar on the bottom of the screen showing you where the monsters are. Blue monsters are always visible, but as you kill them, yellow and red ones will start to appear. Those are invisible unless you're in the same horizontal or vertical corridor as they are, and so you can only tell where they are by glancing at the radar until they appear. You can see that on the sides of any map, there are two little doors, those red doors. Those are teleporters. A solid red line shows that it's closed, but it will open after a few seconds, and you can go back and forth between the sides of the map. Monsters can do this too, and after any entity goes through it, it'll stay closed for another, 10 seconds or something before it opens again. You can see in the bottom left, the blue player, player 2, appears. This could be controlled by a second person if you're playing a two-player game, but in a one-player game, it's controlled by the computer. This guy's supposed to help you, but he ends up killing you all the time. He's terrible. The very first thing you should do on level 1 is go down and kill all 3 of his lives. They're worth 1,000 points apiece, and this prevents him from killing you. He will shoot at any monster that's in his line of sight, even if you're standing right between him and the monster. So he just ends up killing you all the time. So all that said, that's the basics. We see a maze. There's a bunch of different mazes, and the boards appear randomly. So let's just take a look at the gameplay. So all you do in this game, you can move, you can shoot. Nice simple 1980s arcade game. You can see one of the first things I do, I go down to the bottom left and kill him. You can also see that when you're in the same corridor as the slow monsters, he just took a shot at me. So the idea is you do not want to line up in a long corridor with these monsters. Now, one other thing about this game is you can only have one shot on the screen at a time. So I'm showing here, you see how I'm firing down this long corridor? That's the only shot I can have. So if you whiff a gigantic shot against somebody, then you're a sitting duck. You're not going to be able to rapidly mash the fire button. So what you want to do in general is to keep your shots short. Stay in a defensive position where your shot will hit a wall quickly after you fire it. So if you miss, you'll take the monsters out right away. So we see now in level 2, you can already see the monsters are moving faster. Monsters will continually move faster over the course of time. You can see they just sped up yet again. And now what you see I'm doing here is, like I mentioned, I go to a defensive position. I'm keeping an eye on the radar. And I'm basically spamming my shots waiting for these monsters to come into the area. This game is about picking good defensive positions to defend because the monsters are much, much faster than you. So, on every level after the first level, when you kill all the monsters, a final monster called the Warlock comes out. Now, the Warlock will run around for a few seconds and then try to make a break for either of the teleporters on the sides. At this point, that monster, the Warlock, is gone. Killing it gives you a double score bonus for the next stage where all point values are doubled. So obviously, getting high scores involves killing this thing on every level when you can. Sometimes he escapes. There's nothing you can do about it. But you want to try to snipe him before he can get out one of the two sides. So you can see I killed him there, and now I get double score for the next dungeon. Now again, you can see I'm trying to take defensive positions here. Places that I can easily defend. But, you know, sometimes the monsters get around back. And there we go, I got killed because I got touched. Now, the one important thing to know is that monsters can only kill you if you're standing right on a tile. Like, you can see that this game is in tiles, right? Basically, like, you can imagine a grid over the playfield. And you can see that if you're not entirely on a tile and a monster touches you, like that just happened to me, you get bounced back so that you're square on a tile. At that point, they can kill you. So you can use that trick of standing between tiles in order to basically take a safe hit. Now, you can only do this safely when monsters are moving at their maximum speed. When they're slower than that, they'll stop and shoot you. When they move at max speed, monsters can no longer shoot. So here you can see we get a bonus player. You always get this on the 4th dungeon, which is called the arena. And this arena is always the same, a big open area. Now, the trick here is you go up to this top position where I'm showing you. This is the safest place by far to stand. You can keep your shots short here. Monsters will generally funnel up to the right side, but you have to keep an eye on the radar because monsters will come around the back sometimes, and you're going to have to react very quickly. You can see here I'm mashing fire pretty well because those monsters can slip in between your shots if you're not careful. So, as you continue to go up in dungeons, eventually the Wizard of Wor himself will appear. The wizard is very quick, he teleports around and shoots constant lightning bolts at you. So what you want to do is, again, get to a very defensive position. If you try to take him one-on-one in a long corridor, he will kill you. So you can see here again, I've taken up a good defensive position. I'm having monsters funnel towards me. Now, they move semi-randomly. They tend to move towards you, but depending on the dungeon layout, they will get stuck certain places, so you just have to be very patient. This is a patient game. Because, again, the monsters will move way faster than you very quickly. Now, starting here on Dungeon 6, you'll see that they start quick, and they are going to move to max speed extremely fast. So it's very important as these dungeons go up, especially after the arena, see they're already max speed, that you get to a defensive position very quickly. This happens to be a very easy map because we call it the cage. You can see here in the upper right there is a single point of entry. There is the teleporter where they could potentially come behind you, but you can also see in the middle of the map that the monsters are trying to get to me. And so, unless you see something coming way around the radar, you do not have to worry about this one. So learning the levels is another part of this game. You'll find that there's levels you really like, there's levels you really hate because there are very few defensive positions. This one here, the cage, happens to be one of the easiest maps in the game, and it's helpful to get it in the higher dungeons because when the monsters move super fast, having a map with a great defensive position that you can quickly reach will obviously keep you alive. Now I'm just here waiting for these guys to come try to kill me. This one is one where the AI happens to get stuck in the middle a lot, but you just have to be patient because if you try to go out and take them one-on-one, they're moving probably twice as fast, if not 3 times as fast as you at this point, and you will be instantly killed. So I believe in this one you're about to see the first appearance of the wizard. So you'll see after I kill the warlock, I immediately retreat to a defensive position. You can see I'm trying to go back and forth, seeing which one the warlock is going to go out of. And here we have the first appearance of the wizard. So I am just being very careful, trying to stand in a very defended area. And there we go. So those are the basics of Wizard of Wor. Play very defensively, especially after the first few levels, when the monsters start moving extremely fast. Here you can see by Dungeon 7, they start at max speed every single time. So you can also see here that because I know they're at max speed, I'm bumping out this way. Being halfway through gives me that extra little hit of safety. And it also helps bait them into walking towards the front where I am, as opposed to coming around the back behind me, in which case I'd have to react very fast to turn around and kill them. So the first 7 levels are the standard levels. Once you get to map 8, it starts something called the Warlord Dungeons, which are an extremely difficult set of different maps that are very, very open and much harder to deal with. So you can see here, just as an example, this is a Warlord Dungeon. There are very few places to hide, and they require much different and trickier to execute strategies. And also extremely fast reactions. So if you get here, that is a whole new set of videos. But as far as this intro goes, we went over all the major mechanics, and I think we are done. So go get some high scores.
A Wizard of Wor.